CJ's catch entirely your expert tutelage in that regard?
I can't take a lot of credit for that. That the play was a play we were going to run in that situation. He ran a great route. Carson just got a little bit of pressure and kind of floated it up, and the safety played over the top. But unbelievable catch. I mean, if you don't catch it, it might get picked. I mean, the guy's tracking the ball pretty good, so it was, if he could have a little bit cleaner second, Carson probably throws that a little lower, and it's like right in between them, that's kind of what we anticipated on that play. But he floated it a little bit, and that was an unbelievable catch by CJ, to end the half, which was huge.
To be able to run the last 5.5 off the clock, going into the half, sans the kneel down, of course, and then to eat up the first 7.5 of the third quarter, just how good
well,
is that?
I mean, we talk about the middle eight. I mean, I think that's crucial to any game, especially when it's a evenly matched game. When it's a game like that, the middle eight is crucial. And so when we got the ball at the end of the half, and I think it was 5:21 left, and I think they got the ball back with 14 seconds. And you want to score. You want to score a touchdown, obviously, but a field goal is fine too. But just the way we went down the field there, and then we got the ball the second half, which is huge, and then we took like 7.5 minutes and scored. So that was really, on our side, that was the story of the game, because we kind of hit a lull right after that. And but that was really what put us in the driver's seat and put us in a situation to win it. In good teams like Notre Dame, I mean, you get up on them and you get a chance to put them away. Those teams are hard to put away, because they're good and they have a lot of pride. And, so they fought back, credit to them. And then when we had to go down and do it, we did.
Just not to filibuster, but just one more follow-up on that. How much do you pay attention to the coin toss? Because that having that right to defer obviously is something that's pretty important.
No, I mean, I do think that having the right to defer is big, because if you can get the middle eight, and be successful with it, then you get back-to-back possessions where you can get a 14-point swing like that. That's crucial.
Talk a little bit about the commitment to the running game last night.
Yeah.
Particularly the running between the tackles and turning it into a power game. And I mean, those are hard yards that you guys were.
Yeah, and I felt like we were getting good push. Even at the first drive, we were backed up, but we were getting good push throughout the game. And so I did feel their edges were tough at times. They caved us a little bit on some split flow stuff that we were doing. But I felt like we were getting good push in the middle, and we had some wide zone stuff that was stretching and hitting pretty decent. And the combination of those two, I thought, was very, very critical for that 7-minute drive in the third quarter, because I thought that's when, we started leaning on them at that point, and we started hitting some big runs. And then ultimately at the end of the game, we leaned on the run heavily because, our O-line we feel good about it. I trust those guys. I trust the running backs. And in those kind of situations, grinding out a win is the most important. I go back and forth with being aggressive in some of those deals, and I probably would take one of those calls back probably, but there's always going to be a handful of calls in the game that I probably wish I had back. And so, ended up working out.
Going in though, like for you, like it's going to be hard for you to call a game with that type of discipline.
It all depends on the flow of the game and how it's going. Like if you're not getting anything, then obviously you can't stick with it. But I felt like for the, probably the better part of the game, we were getting good push and good yards in the run game. And so I just felt too that, just to be completely honest with you, their back end defends the pass really well. And that's probably the strength of that team. And as the game went, I was probably as impressed with their back end, as I thought I would be. And so, being able to run the ball in those games like that are crucial.
Shannon, with the run game, just what have you learned over the last couple of years about the value of having that by committee approach, having 3 or 4 guys who are able to rotate in and out throughout the length of the long football schedule?
I think it's the reason, right? You look at those 3 guys, and Jordan started the game, and then Marty and Mark both had 15 carries, right? And so really it doesn't matter who starts the game. It matters in the sense of like you go out there and you've earned that right, But ultimately, all three of those guys are going to play, and then at some point, we're going to go with the guy that has the hot hand. And so I thought Matt did a great job of rotating those guys in, and when they got their opportunity, they took advantage of it, you know. And so I think it's going to be a different person every week, to be honest with you, which is great. That's awesome for the Canes.
Malachi, tell me, I know you guys were really high on what he's been able to do since he got here, but to see him do what he did under the lights in his first game, just what stood out the most to you about what he was able to do last night?
I mean, I think he just showed the world like what we've been seeing every week, you know, and every day in practice. You know, he's been the same guy every day. He's steady, makes plays every day. He doesn't get too up or too down. Very consistent personality, high effort. But yeah, I mean, your hope as a coach is that you go into those games, and especially, you know, you got people questioning the receiving core. That's all I heard for about a month there is like, you know, who's he going to throw the ball to? Well, I had a pretty good idea that we had some people that he could throw the ball to, but, you know, they haven't really done it here for the Miami Hurricanes yet. So it was good to go out there and put that on display some. And I will say that the best thing that receiving core did last night was they blocked their you-know-what off. I'm talking about, like, they took, you know, that to heart. And I tell those guys that, you know, you don't have to have the ball in your hand to affect the game, you know. And I think sometimes skilled guys get it in their head that, you know, oh, if I don't get the ball, then how am I going to affect the game? Well, I mean, go affect the game, you know, with effort and blocking. And I will say that, you know, that's probably the best display of effort and blocking I've seen in a receiving core for maybe my coaching career, but in a long time.
Shannon, why do you think that is? Why do you think they took to that? Is it the competition? They know they have to. I mean, why do you think they?
I do think that there's competition at those positions, and I think when you have people competing for playing time and jobs, I mean, it just ups your level of I better do everything right, you know. And I do think it talks to the character of those guys that they're willing to do the dirty work. You know, it's not just about the stuff that puts your name in the paper. And the catch by CJ was elite, but I could pull up 15 clips of him digging out a safety and giving it everything he's got. I mean, to me, that fires me up as much as the catch that gets the catch of the week deal. And so they just take ownership in that as a whole group. And it's not just, honestly, to be very clear, I mean, it's not just the starters. We rolled in other guys like JoJo. You used to see him blocking, you know. I mean, JoJo did a heck of a job doing the same thing, and Ray went in and blocked. And I mean, all those guys are really buying into the fact that, you know, I don't really need the ball in my hand to affect the game. And so, you know, we keep that mentality and the mentality of like, hey man, it doesn't matter who, you know, gets the credit or gets the carries or gets the catches. It's like when I get in there, I'm going to affect the game for my teammates. I think we got a good chance.
Is CJ one of the better leaders you've seen at wide receiver in particular? How has he impacted that room?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I appreciate him, and I appreciate his mentality and his consistency he brings every day. I really do. And he's been through a lot in his career, you know, and to get to this place and really have that leadership spot, and he's earned it. And his voice is very, I wouldn't say loud, but it carries a lot of weight, you know. And the reason it does is because he does everything and even the hard stuff. And so, yes, he has taken a leadership role, and our guys do listen to him. And I definitely appreciate the person he is.
I don't want to ask if it's a surprise, because if you say yes, that's a connotation that you expected otherwise from him. But he was, I mean, much like Carson, they had a resume before they got here. He's an accomplished player.
That's right.
And when you talk about a kid who comes in with a certain cachet, yet is willing to do the little things, kind of how rare is that in 2025 in this era of college football?
Well, I mean, you never know the mentality you're getting sometimes. That's the one thing that's a question mark. You can see the production. I mean, the guy's been a productive player. You know, I mean, I know things might not have went exactly his way at the last stop, but his skill set and the way I view things, I mean, his skill set fits what we do offensively and what I want is that specific receiver. And I know that he can be highly productive within the parameters of our offense, because he does have an elite skill set, you know. And so, and sometimes, you know, those guys get a clean slate and they come in and it's exactly what they need. I mean, it's no different than Carson. I mean, you know, part of his motivation, you know, going into this game is, I mean, everybody was talking about a lot of other quarterbacks that haven't done 1% of what he's done in college football. And I remind him of that all the time, you know. People forget that he's 24-3 and won an SEC championship and all the rest. Well, you wouldn't know it by listening to people. You know, they'd rather praise somebody who hadn't played anybody, you know. And so it is what it is. But he did, I mean, he's a guy that's motivated by that, and he should be. You know, you got to find your why, and his is easy to find because there's a level of disrespect that's been out there. And so, and I thought he played a very, very solid game against a very, very good defense.
You talked about the lull in the second half after the first touchdown drive. What did you see during those 4 drives, and what did you like about how the offense was able to respond to the final drive when you needed them to?
It was, honestly, it was just little things. I mean, we got into a couple short yardage situations and didn't convert. Marty slipped on one. I mean, we had it. If he doesn't slip, it's just unfortunate. You know, I mean, they had some issues probably too on their side, and so it's just some things that happened. So there was 2 short yardage situations where it really just came down to execution on our part, and some little things happened, and we just missed exactly where the ball should have went, and we'll learn from it. And so, and one of the other ones, it was 4, and so one of the other ones, or 3, we had a 2nd and 4, and we had a holding penalty. And so we had a 2nd and 4, and Carson scrambles for a first. We had a holding penalty, put us back behind the chains, and then we didn't convert. And so those things, you know, the 2 short yardage, it was really on us execution-wise. And then we had a penalty that put us back. And so those 3 stopped 3, like, consecutive drives. And then, you know, at the end, whenever they tied it up, I mean, it was basically, you know, I mean, we got to drive the field and score or we're going to get beat. And so there was, the sense of urgency was obviously there. And then, you know, we didn't really do anything to shoot ourselves in the foot that drive, which is really the key. You know, if we get out of our own way, we can do pretty decent.
On the catch by CJ, you said Carson was under a little pressure. They'd taken his legs pretty much from him as he's letting go with the ball. That was a lot of, that's just sheer upper body strength. Is that something we forget sometimes, maybe?
Well, I think people, if you've never been around him, I mean, he's a big guy that, like, has an elite, you know, arm. And so he can make those throws, you know, as good as anybody I've seen. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a, you know, he's a talented guy that's got a lot of ability to make a lot of throws. And so, you know, that one was just, you know, like I said, I mean, we knew what we were going to have in that situation. Now, they did play it in the back end. The safety's a little bit different. We had some space between CJ and the safety. It just, the ball floated a little bit. Probably more than Carson would have liked. And then, look, I mean, the fact is every ball isn't going to be perfect. Like, you got to, like, sometimes you got to catch the hard ones, you know. Now, that one's, you know, a little bit ridiculous, but we'll take it.
How do you prepare for a game like Saturday in that, you know, it's going to be a Super Bowl feeling for those? I mean, Bethune kids, FCS kids, whenever they play FBS, they want to prove that they belong at a different level and all that. They're coming off of, you know, a tough week 1. You know you're going to get everything that they can think of that's in their playbook. You're going to see some craziness, I'm sure. How do you prepare for that?
Well, I mean, I do think it's a little bit, you know, with our guys, we have older guys that are very mature. And so, honestly, we've flushed this already, and we've focused. I mean, we're going to take every opponent the same way. I mean, you win games through the week of preparation. And it's the same thing I said last week. You know, I told them before the game, I said, you win this game on Green Tree, which you've already done it. So go take what's yours, right? And so we're going to go to work tomorrow, and we're going to put this one to bed very quickly, and we're going to focus on the next week. And so I think it starts with Coach Cristobal and us as a staff to, hey, man, you know, great job, great win for the program, but it's just one win. And so ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's one game a week, and just move forward and focus on the next week, because it truly is, you know, some of the stuff that you get praised about can be the poison that kills you, you know, and so we're well aware of that. And so, you know, it's easy for us to flush it. I flush it pretty quick because, you know, I know that like the other side's not too far away if you don't pay attention to it.
Shannon,